I'm on now. Good morning. Thank you, Adele, for being here. Pastor Adele for being here while I was over at First. With Lewis's surgery and him becoming so connected to that community, I just really felt like I needed to be there. And thankful for Pastor Rich for preaching over there. So that was lovely in order to fill in. I want to begin by, so my sabbatical, as you all know, we're just going to jump right in because there's tacos next door, I heard. So sabbatical is June 1st to August 31st. Thankful to Lily, you got a part of that. They're paying for your dinner this afternoon. They are paid for brunch earlier. They paid for your Casa Discipleship books. No moaning. We're going to learn more about Bonhoeffer, and you might actually appreciate him after this presentation. I know you didn't appreciate the book. It's okay. What? Yeah, the book was hard. It's seminary level. It is. It's okay. It's okay. We're going to learn more personal stories about Bonhoeffer today. It's more going to be storytelling. Funded by E.I. Lilly, which is great. So if you have drugs from E.I. Lilly, I'm just going to say thank you, because you helped pay for the sabbatical for me and for all the things that happened around here as well. I'm really glad that this worked out that Pastor Adele is here, because when I miss something, she can pop in, because she was here for the Bonhoeffer piece of it. I'm going to spend most of the time on Bonhoeffer, but wanted to go through, I'm just going to skip over that. That was my thank you already. I got to spend time with family, and that was so important for me. For something you don't know, it was the 10th anniversary of my husband's death. And so I got to, that was part of the grant, is that I got to spend some intentional time with my sons. Even though my oldest son couldn't come, he had some health issues and some other things going on. We got to go to Sedona later. But that's my youngest son in the bottom corner. That's Nick, and that's him when he first arrived. He was catching up with his girlfriend home, make sure that they all got there, okay? Got to go to the beach with my grandsons. So you see Chance and Oliver there hugging. Yeah. And all he can talk now about is Oliver. So that connection at the beach, when I have a bi-coastal family, as I say, was so important for them to spend all that time at the beach together. And then I was able to take my grandson, Oliver. He's up in the top left corner. That's Oliver with my sisters, and we went to spend some time on the New Jersey shore. And then in the bottom right is my older sister, Julie. We went to Holden Village together, so more time with family. And then my parents, who are here, are second to the left, so they're right here. That just turned out for the presentation to be. So that time with family. And then time with friends. I went back to the first congregation I served as an intern. That's the top left. That's Steve Mims with me. He's the pastor there now. And so we got to spend some time together, and I got to worship in that community. And then, of course, Adele was with me. That's our airport picture. The one on the right is Pastor Jeff Lingle. We served together in the same town of my last church in Rock Hill, South Carolina, my friend Cindy. And on the right is a friend, Susan Troutman. And in the middle, I preached one time about how I was going to get to baptize my third grade friend and her daughter. Yeah, that was exciting. So that was that baptismal day in San Diego. And it was just an emotional time. She had come to church with me, I think I told you, growing up, but never got connected to a church. But when she said, I'm ready, my child needs a church, let's go find one. She said, what church is that you belong to? What is that, ELCA church? And so I'm not going to tell the story again, I did during a sermon, but I was welcome there to be able to preach and to baptize them. So lovely. So here we are. This is the group on the bottom that we traveled with. There were 22 of us. It's called, what is it called? Root, the group that led it. It's called Root. Anyway, Andy Root and Kara Root, our husband and wife, they have a group that does trips, and this is the Bonhoeffer trip, and this is Bonhoeffer on top, and so we tried to reenact the picture. I don't know if we did it, but anyway, he does it every year, so we did it anyway. That was the full picture of our class that we spent 7-8 days with, so it was really fun. So a little bit about the Bonhoeffers. Karl Bonhoeffer was a very famous psychiatrist, and so when we go over to Germany, I assumed that everybody would know who Bonhoeffer is, right? I found out here nobody knows who Bonhoeffer is, but over there even less people know about Bonhoeffer is. But everything is named Bonhoeffer, but not after Dietrich, after Karl. He was a very famous psychiatrist. And so he was kind of new money. The whole family was new money. But that's him. And so, you know how you say you're going to the funny farm? They would say you're going to the Bonnie farm. That's how famous he was. And then his mother, Paula, who homeschooled the children. Her grandfather was a pastor. Karl didn't really have time for church, basically is what he said. I haven't got time for all of that. So Paula said, that's fine. We're going to raise these children in the home and teach them about faith in the home. When I homeschool them, they're going to read the Bible. They're going to learn to pray. They're going to be part of a faith community. And so they were confirmed in the church. They did go to confirmation, as all good Lutherans do, right? Went to confirmation, was baptized and confirmed in the church, but that was pretty much it. He did not go to church and yet became a pastor. So just want to say the relationships of our parents and our grandparents in discipleship is critically important, the role that you play. And even if they kind of run away a little bit sometimes from the church, they may come back. So anyway, that is Karl and Paula. We're going to hear a little bit more about that. This was their childhood home in Grunwald. It was in a very rich area. Anyway, the whole community in there was the friends he grew up with were the friends that were part of the whole assassination attempt. They all lived in that same community. Those kids married each other. So they married each other's friends. They were tight. And it's really important because there wasn't many people to trust at that time, right? There was a lot of stuff going on during the time of Hitler, and so they couldn't really trust many people. But these core childhood friends are the ones that ended up together, holding each other up and making these plans. So Bonhoeffer was one of 8 children. He is the 4th one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think, well, who's not in there? I picked a bad picture, it got cut off. So the oldest, Karl, was a chemist. Walter served in World War I and was killed. And so remember that. That was really critical to this whole story. You see, they all did really well. Klaus, a lawyer. Ursula lived right next door to his second home, we'll see in a minute. And we'll hear a little story about her. And then Christina married Hans, who was also executed as part of this. And then, of course, we have Dietrich, who's a pastor. Sabine was Dietrich's twin sister. And that played an important part of his development as well, important. And Suzanne married a theologian. Christina was also part of the movement. She was a woman, so she was always in the room, kind of giving her 2 cents worth. So they were all part of this. This wasn't the university, it was the high school, it was called the gymnasium. I put university, gymnasium. So this is where he went to high school, where all those kids went to high school, right there. And their names are on these plaques. As you go in that front door, these names are on these plaques of these people who were part of this attempt and those who were killed as part of it. So and it was in Grunwald. This is Bonhoeffer's first church. I have a story about this church. So Bonhoeffer started out as a youth worker. You wouldn't know that by reading his stuff, right? But he loved the youth. And so his first call in there, he was called into an unruly youth group. And the pastor said, here's your youth, have fun, I'm out. He was the senior pastor. He's like, so they were jumping off, what middle school youth do. Off the rafters, not listening, not being a part of anything, right? And he just sat down. The story is he just sat down and started telling stories. And suddenly they quieted down because they wanted to hear the story. And at the end of their time together, he said, if you want to hear more, you will come back next time, and I will tell you the rest of the story. Yeah. He won their hearts. He won their respect. Here they are. Here's this group of boys. And so there actually is a book called Dietrich Bonhoeffer, The Youth Worker, that you can pick up. It might be a little easier to read than Cost of Discipleship. But he modeled for them, I have a copy if you want to borrow it. He modeled for them what it looked like, right? To be attentive and to listen and to be part of the community. So some of these people ended up being guards in concentration camps because it was the duty. And we also know that a lot of people who don't have money, they join the military. There's no other option, right? And so a number of these youth did that and ended up serving probably not their choice, but what they needed to do. I think one of them became a pastor. I think that's right, Adele. I think one of them became a pastor. You don't remember. Yeah, I think one of them might have become a pastor. But had amazing effect. He also did other youth work. And so he is known as a youth worker, and there are people who study him and how he served the youth of his day. And you say, why do I have dogs? Because I didn't have a dog of Mr. Wolf. This little boy came to Dietrich Bonhoeffer's house, and his grandparent, and he came over delivering something from his parents. I don't know what it was. We weren't really told what it was. And Dietrich said to him, "Are you okay? What's wrong? You just don't seem like yourself." He goes, "Mr. Wolf, my dog, he was 3 years old, he died." Now Dietrich, who's this high theologian who's doing all the study, just doesn't know what to say. Do dogs go to heaven? I don't know if they go to heaven. I don't know. Was really struggling with this. And ultimately came down to this. He goes, God loves people. God loves dogs. So yes, you are going to see Mr. Wolf again. But I thought what was fascinating about this, you have a man who has this very high intellect, right, who's brilliant, is still struggling with some of the core pieces of faith, right, like we all do. Is Mr. Wolf going to go to heaven? Am I going to see Mr. Wolf when I get to heaven? So according to Dietrich Bonhoeffer, if you're worried about that question, yes. The answer is yes, your pets will be with you in heaven. I think it's a great story because, as I said, we just read Cost of Discipleship. We thought it was hard, and it was hard, and just some basic questions of faith. So this is the house on the left that, well, both houses, but this is where we stayed while we had our classes. That was, when he got a little older, the parents downsized. They didn't need quite as big a house, right? Because they had 8 children. They didn't have 8 children anymore. So they had 8, they moved to that house. I think one of the things that I neglected, I skipped right on over, is Walter. Walter was the second child and was killed during World War I. And it broke his mother's heart. This was the one who was going to follow maybe and be a pastor. This was the one who she was going to raise in the faith. Dad was going to get the chemist and the lawyer and all those, and she was going to get this one to be the faithful one, right? And then he got killed. She was so devastated, she left the house. Dietrich was 12. Left the house for 2 years and went to go stay with a friend. She couldn't even be in the house. Just broken-hearted. Eventually, she came back. And it was kind of unspoken. He says, it's not really written anywhere, our teacher, Andy Root, said. It's not really written anywhere, but it seems to be there was some understanding. You stay away from Dietrich and I'll come back because he's mine. And I'm going to raise him in the faith. I'm going to teach him about God's love. He's mine. Stay away. And it seems like that's what happened. When Dietrich was confirmed, he was given Walter's Bible. There was just this deep connection that his mom had, Paula, had with Dietrich. It was her. She was going to hold on to him and teach him about God's love and about discipleship. And so that's what happened. So this is the house, and this is kind of the road. And it is critical to know that it's kind of back. We had to walk, a mile maybe from the station there. Weather was great, it was fine, but it was on a dead end. If you can see, so the house is on the left, but if you kept walking here, the house would have been on the right. And it goes to a dead end. You can't get through. Some people called Ubers, and they had real trouble finding them. They're like, we're on the other side of the fence, and you couldn't get over the fence, so they had to Re-navigate. So this is his bedroom. Andy Root joked, you can go lay on his bed if you want to. He goes, it's kind of weird, but you could go lay on his bed if you want to. So there's his bed at the bottom, and that's the desk, and he would look out over the desk, and his sister was living right next door with her children. So he would play with them, and he would throw things out. Wouldn't he throw balls and stuff out the window at them? I mean, he was very playful and loved children while he was studying. That was just one, left was one of the pictures on the wall. I don't know why I took a picture of that, but there you go, and his bookshelves. He spent a lot of time there because there was a time that he was basically confined to his house because of the things that he was doing with the resistance movement. But there's his bedroom. This is the kitchen where the family gathered, where the relatives gathered, where the people who were part of the conspiracy gathered to make the plan to assassinate Hitler. In this little kitchen is where it all happened. And as I said, on the end, they thought people could listen. They even built this big tower in East Germany, and everyone thought that they could hear everything that was going on because of this huge tower, right? So they were in this small little place where no one would think anything was going on. It was family gathering, it was friends gathering, it was relatives gathering, right? And there they gathered and hatched the plan. And it's from this house that he was also arrested. So his sister, as I said, lived next door. And when the black limousines came to arrest him, they weren't arresting him because of the plot or the plan. They arrested him because he was smuggling people out of Germany. He was helping to get Jews out of Germany. In fact, his twin sister, Sabine, who he loved dearly. In fact, there's a picture of him, and he's looking off and looking just really comfortable and happy. He's actually looking at his twin sister. Somehow they keep cutting her out of the picture. I guess because he just looks so calm and peaceful in that picture. I'm not sure. But he smuggled his sister and her husband, who was Jewish, to England to be safe. So these are some of the things that were playing into him being part of this resistance movement, right? He could see the things that were happening to the Jews. He saw it firsthand. I think his brother-in-law lost his job, right, because he was Jewish. I mean, it was a gradual thing, but if you were looking, you knew it was happening, and you could see what was happening. Maybe it was. Oh, you go. Nice connection. So when the limousines came up to arrest him, he went next door to his sister's, Ursula's, and she fed him. Because she goes, he's not going to eat for a while. He's going to be in jail. We might as well feed him. So he fed. Meanwhile, they came in. The parents were still living in this house with him. And they raided his room. They tried to take everything away. And then the dad called and said, okay, it's time to come home now. And they took him away, never to return. But he went on a full stomach because Ursula fed him. That's what she did. She fed people. And he never returned. So he's arrested and imprisoned, as I said, for smuggling Jews from Germany to Switzerland. This is one of the museums that we got to see. This is the picture. He's looking at Sabine. But Sabine was cut out of the picture. His twin sister out there. This is, in this area, there was a prison where he was kept for a couple of years. And there were people who were smuggling his writings out. There were some of the guards that continued to make sure his writings kept going and they could keep hearing them. But it was in that place. And so on the outside there are these pictures, and some of them are of him. He's probably pictured, I think he was in 3 or 4 of the museums we saw. And the pictures, I mean, they're huge museums, and his picture was this big on a wall somewhere. And in fact, in our class, there was a man who came to sit in on the class because he didn't get it. He was from Germany. He was German, and he goes, I just need to understand why people are about this Dietrich Bonhoeffer guy. And so he just sat through the class to hear the lectures, to understand why he was so important to the Lutherans in America. So he sat and listened in. But anyway, so this is where he was imprisoned. So this is Dietrich. at the concentration camp where he would eventually be killed. But they found out who he was. They found out he was the son of the guy who says, we're going to the Bonnie farm. So they kind of pulled him out of some of the dregs of the prisons and kind of held him up higher, right? And so he got to be out there. There are pictures of him smoking with the people. I mean, there's all sorts of things that are, because he was their equal. He's the second one to the right, kind of the first full body on the right. I think this has a pointer on it. I don't know how it works. It seems like a lot to figure out. Okay, yeah, the one on the right next to the guard, looking this way on the right. It wasn't long after that he was hung. So this was Dietrich Bonhoeffer's final words. This is the end. For me, the beginning of life. I fell in love with Dietrich Bonhoeffer while I was gone. Can you tell? Huh? It makes you sad, right? But, I mean, the work he did to get people, he didn't live for himself. He lived for others. It was really clear. He got his sister out. He got all these people to Switzerland. He tried to protect all the people in the country, right? He was, when he died, 39 when he died. He was young. And he was engaged to be married. That never happened. What was I saying? So there was something about him that said, this isn't about me, this is about the other. Hence, cost of discipleship, right? In order to follow, you've got to give things up in order to love and serve your neighbor. And so we can go into all the heady stuff about his books and his writings and his theology and all those kinds of things, but it was really a matter of the heart for him, which is why I think I fell in love with him, right? Other thoughts? I know y'all want to eat, right? Yeah. I don't know if we have a number because, they tried to do it under the radar, right? Do you have any idea how many, Adele? I don't remember that.
The one I remember in particular was called Operation 7.
Operation 7. I'm just doing it so they can hear. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. I just want to do it.
Yeah, Operation 7. And it ended up with 14 people that he helped smuggle out, but it was called Operation 7. So that's the one that stands out in my mind.
There's that one. And then, of course, Sabine and her family were part of, additional ones. This is, the other thing we got to do was this. We got to go to the archives of the Prussian State Museum, and we got to see original pictures, original writings, original letters having to do with Bonhoeffer. So that's Bonhoeffer and his sister. And there's another picture of Bonhoeffer, and some of these are the writings even after his death. So you can imagine there were 3 of his family members who were killed as part of this. So you can imagine how this family, like within days, they were killed. So you can imagine how that whole family was writing back and forth and trying to make sense out of this. And there he is again. This is the Resistance Movement Museum. And there was stuff about Anne Frank, of course, but there were others as well in there that talked about. I think that was one of the things that struck me. I knew there was other people doing resistance. I didn't realize how many until I got to this museum and started to hear the stories in other museums as well. There was a lot of people working towards the resistance. Early war movies, you could see it. Yeah. And hold them and yeah. Okay, very good. I'm gonna have to watch more movies. I don't watch a lot of movies. It's me. Yeah. Oh, so they tried to put a bomb in what they called the den, and it went off, but they had moved it behind this big piece of furniture, so it went off. Unfortunately, he was fine. Yeah. Oh, yep, Steve. So he was part of the letter writing movement and trying to gather people and get people together. But they were having the conversations before that in that room. Yeah. What else before we get there? Thank you again. I'm here for more questions. Yeah. There is. I'm already signed up for November 22nd at 6 o'clock at the Chandler Fashion Mall. You can come to the Bonhoeffer movie. Oh, yeah? You signed up yet, Steve?
I'm going to do it.
Okay, November 22nd, 6 p.m., Chandler Fashion is when I'm going. It's in other places too at other times. But get your tickets now. There are a few of us. Melinda's going. There are a few others going. Jump on in. We're going to advertise it. That was, yeah. Okay, there's a huge German resistance as well. Mm-hmm.
Is that museum in Berlin?
Yes, that's in Berlin. Yeah.
I went through Germany many years ago. I can say with factualness, the Germans are good at keeping everything so people don't forget. Even if they don't know about it, they don't want to forget.
I think every museum we went to was free. It was free. It was all free because they want you to do it all. They don't want you to think about whether it's going to cost you money to go through those museums or see any of that. There were the bullet holes, but then also, of course, they have the stumbling stones. So as you're walking along the sidewalk, you'll see outside the houses people's names and the dates they were taken out of their homes. So you could just be walking down a street in Berlin, and then you see some stumbling blocks, they call them. Yeah. It depends on what part of the country and where you see those see the stumbling blocks. But that was really impactful for me. I have a couple pictures. I have a book that I will leave out that you can kind of see some of that stuff in. A lot more pictures. Yeah. Out of there. Yeah. My son and I did get to Checkpoint Charlie. Yeah. It's a beautiful city, but it's got quite a history, right? Your ancestors are from there. A lot of people are German. I got some of that going on. Oh, okay. When it was still up, yeah, now it's not. There's just a little museum there now. Oh, got out. And Dietrich had a chance to get out. If you read the book and heard from Pastor Bernie, right? He could have stayed in America, right? But he went back. He got here and he said, I can't just let this go. I got to go back. Yeah. Bob.
Are there any surviving family members involved on Bonhoeffers in Germany?
I think yes, there are. I can't. Yeah, there got to be. There were 7 siblings, so there are. But we didn't get into any of that. We didn't have time for that. So now that I'm back, I'm refreshed. I'm renewed. So now we're going to find out what's next. Huh? That slide. Huh? You want to hear more stories? Do you have more stories? I'm trying to think. Oh, we went to, but that's not a story about Dietrich. Here, I'm going to let you tell it. Adele's got one.
Oh, no, I mentioned this morning in worship that I said to her, oh yeah, we went to the Kaiser Wilhelm Kirche, where the pastor there was one of the founding members of the Confessing Church.
Right.
Yeah, Gerhard Jacobi.
So part of that resistance
Yeah.
too. A little different. Yeah. I mean, I picked my favorites. I'd have to go back through my notes and find more, but I'm sure there are more. I'll just throw it in. So do you love him more now? Yes. Okay. Maybe we should start out with stories that I didn't have. Yes. Okay. Let's, I hear they're tacos. Oh, wait, there's another question. Judy.
When you share your experience of the sabbatical with your minister friends, how many sabbaticals have they been on, and do they have similar refreshing experiences?
So they do, they're very different. I was really blessed. I had a great team that helped me write this grant that got funded. There are many, many people. My mother was talking about how she's told people I got this Lilly grant and how many had applied and didn't get it. So they get sabbaticals, but they don't get to do quite the plethora of things I got to do and have quite the experiences I got to have. Because for those of you who don't know, the grant was $43,000. 12 of it stayed here, and I got to do things with my family and do amazing experiences because of that. So yes, they're refreshed and renewed, but it looks very different than this looked. Does that help? Yeah. Yes. Anything else? All right, keep asking questions as we go along, but let's pray, and I hear they're tacos. Gracious God, we give you thanks for the witness of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. May we continue to be disciples and follow you as boldly as Dietrich Bonhoeffer did. Be with us as we break bread together, as we enjoy fellowship with one another. Bless the food you've provided and the hands that have prepared it and are serving it. We pray all these things through your Son. Amen.